we are celebrating 100 years from the time in which Anna Jarvis, who was the lady who promoted Mother's Day, was able in Grafton, West Virginia, to make Mother's Day a recognized holiday in the United States. So it's traditional in our society and in many other societies too to offer a gift or a flower or a card or just a kiss and a hug to mothers and grandmothers and our maternal important figures on Mother's Day. Now, it is very difficult to talk around Mother's Day and not step on someone's foot. Because, see, there are those who have great mothers, which are loving and close to them and feel joyful, and therefore there is nothing I could say that could do justice to those mothers. There are others of us who have had wonderful mothers, but they are not with us anymore. And we might feel sad at Mother's Days. There are others that had mothers that were not that wonderful. They might not have been such good models of motherhood. And then if I start talking about how wonderful mothers are, they might feel anger. There are others that had no mothers or whose mothers were mostly absent, and they might feel at a loss. Those who are teenagers might feel that their mothers are definitely not cool, so they might not like to hear about them either. And those who are men, even though they have had or had a mother, they might feel like fish out of water if I start talking too much about mothers here. So those others that don't want to take responsibility for their lives, they tend to blame their mothers for everything. And those who might have neglected their own mothers might feel guilty. And the ones who are not mothers at all, even though they are women, they might feel left out. And the ones who have been trying to be mothers and have not been able to might feel deep pain. And those of us who are mothers can feel all of the above sometimes. So, you know, it's really not easy to talk about Mother's Day. It's a challenge. So as I have gotten older and wiser, you know, I'm getting more gray hair, I am not going to talk about mothers, but I'm going to talk today about mothers' dreams, because I think that's a little bit safer to talk about. What is interesting is that I decided to kind of do a little bit of a search that has to do with mothers' dreams. And it seems to be a universal fact that all mothers have dreams for their children. Some of those dreams might be selfish, some of them might be selfless, but they are all good dreams. I couldn't find anywhere mothers who were saying, my dream from my child is that he will use drugs and end up in Yale and spend there a whole bunch of years. No mother has that kind of dreams. They all seem to be good dreams. And as a little sampler of some of the things that mothers have said that their dreams are things like, I want my children to love life with zest and vigor and to share their love with others, to give back to those in need and help make this world a better place. Or, my dream is that my children have the passion, the means, and the opportunity to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve in life. Or another mother might say, my dream is that my child will become a doctor and be able to help many people in this world. Or another one says, as long as they are happy, that's all I'm concerned about. That's all I want my children to have. And as I kept reading a whole bunch, I found some repetitive themes. And it seems like doesn't matter where in the world you live, there are several things that most mothers want their children to be or to achieve. Most of them talk about they want their children achieving greater things than what they themselves have been able to do. So what greater things are, it depends. It depends on where you live in the world. You know, if you live in some village in a underdeveloped country, maybe achieve greater things for you will be that your child doesn't have to be hauling water out of a hole, but that they will be able to be at a place where there is health and where their children are not going to die. You know, if they live in places where there is more abundance, there are other kinds of dreams. But it's always like mothers want their children to have a better life than what they themselves had. The other theme that keeps coming up is they want their children to be good citizens. They want them to be good people. They want them to be looked at, that others look at them as good people. The other universal theme seems to be happiness. They want their children to be happy. Whatever they feel that happy is. For some people, being happy means having money. For some other people, it means having things. For some other people, it means having a good companion. For other people, it means, you know, any other thing. But whatever, in whichever way they define happiness, they want their children to be happy. And the other universal theme seems to be love. They want their children to have love in themselves, for others, and to have others love them. So those are what I found that were kind of universal themes of dreams that mothers had for their children. So when I went to the Bible, I discovered that women in the Bible were not different. You know, Rebecca wanted her children to do good. Well, she started meddling a little bit of God's thing. You know, God had said that Jacob was going to receive blessings, and she just wanted to help God a little bit, so she got too involved in doing the wrong thing, and it didn't end up too pretty. But she had her heart in the right way. And, you know, sometimes mothers do that a little bit. They try to help God, and sometimes the result is not as good as they want. But, you know, it was just to help fulfill the dream. Anna, she had a dream. And she was one of those mothers who could not conceive. And she felt very sad because she thought she may never be able to conceive a child. But when she did, her dream was that her child would achieve greater things for God and would love God. So she gave it back to God, to the temple, at a very early age. I'm not sure about the third name, how you say that in English, and I somehow couldn't find it quickly on my Bible, but I'm talking about the mother of Moses. How do you say her name in English? Jochebed. Okay. So I'm sure it's spelled wrongly somehow, but that's her name, Jochebed. And her dream was very simple, for her child to live. That was her dream, because at that time, they were killing the children of Israel, the male children. So her dream was for her child to live, and her dream was fulfilled way beyond that. And then we have another mother that is the one I want to talk to you about today, Mary, the mother of John and James. And I want you to take your Bible and go to Matthew 20, 20 to 23. And I want a male, not a woman, a male person with a strong voice to just get up where you are and read us those verses. Matthew 20, 20 to 23. One of you gentlemen that want to be so kind as to read that to us in a loud voice so that we all can listen. Who is going to do me that favor? Some of the gentlemen, please. Okay. Just read it loudly. Okay. So, do you really know who this Mary was? You know that in the Bible we have several Marys. So I was looking up which of the Marys she was because, well, we have, as I said, several. And it is very clearly in that verse that were read that she was the mother of Zebedee's sons. Okay, so she was a mother of someone that was known to the disciples. But she was even more than that. In John 10:25, it says that she was the sister of Jesus' mother. It pairs the mother of John and what was his other name? Jacob. James. John and James. It describes her also as the sister of Jesus' mother. So that makes her Jesus' what? Aunt. And that means that John and James were Jesus' what? Cousins. So we are, a little bit of nepotism here, maybe. Maybe that's why she also felt that she could come and have a special petition for Jesus, right? So she comes and begs. If you go to verse 20, it says that she comes, she falls at the foot of Jesus, and she petitions him. She's begging for something. She has a dream for her children. And she wants Jesus to promise her that her dream is going to come through, right? Now, I don't know about you, but many times I have felt on my knees asking God for things or for situations or for blessings for my children. And those of you who are mother, I'm sure you have done that too. And so she wanted him to remember her sons, right? Yeah. Now, the good news is that we really don't have to do that. We don't have to beg God to remember our children because he has promised already that he remembers them. In Isaiah 49, 15 and 16, he speaks about how special the children are to him, our children are to him, and he says, see, I have engraved you in the palms of my hand. He's talking in that whole passage about how, he says, can a woman forget the child that she has had at her breast? Well, because he knows we are human, and unfortunately some women do forget. He said, even if she does forget, I won't forget. And why I won't forget? Because I have you engraved in the palms of my hand. I mean, that's very strong. He has our name, as to say, tattooed on his hands. We are there. We are his. And our children are his too. So he will not forget them. And then Isaiah 49:25 is a wonderful promise. It says, I will contend with the one that contends with you, and I will save your children. That's a great promise. So yes, it's okay for us to ask things of God for our children. But we don't have to feel that unless we plead and unless we bleed and unless we scream that he's not going to do anything for our children, because he has promised he will. He has promised that he will save our children and that he will not forget them because they are tattooed on his hands. So, what was her dream for her children? Well, her dream was not small dream. Her dream was she wanted Jesus to command that in his kingdom, her two sons would sit one of his right hand and one of his left hand. Whoa. Maybe she said, we have kind of like the same blood. They are your cousins. and they are my sons, and you know how wonderful they are? I mean, I know they will do a wonderful job. So I really want to be reassured, Lord, that that's the dream. That's my dream, that my dream is going to be fulfilled. So, problem is, it's easy to criticize and say, come on, how come are you asking for the highest position for your kids in the kingdom? Well, in Desire of Ages, we are told their mother was a follower of Christ and had ministered to him freely of her substance. With a mother's love and ambition for her sons, she coveted for them the most honored place in the new kingdom. For this, she encouraged them, her children, to make a request. So it was out of love. It was not that she was, so greedy that she wanted. No, it was out of love. But our love sometimes can be misdirected, Sometimes we want things for our children that are not the best. And Jesus pretty soon tried to kind of bring her down to reality and said in verse 22 and 23, you do not know what you are asking for. He didn't say, why are you so greedy? Or he didn't say, do you think that you are the one who needs to, He just said, you don't know. You don't know what you are really asking. And then he asked the two sons, are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink? And they were pretty quick with their answer. Yes, we are able. Sometimes we think we are more able to do stuff than we really are. And we are very quick to respond, and yet we really don't know. So, well, I don't know why he doesn't want to change there. So Jesus, who did know, said, you certainly shall drink my cup. What was his cup? They didn't know what his cup was yet. What was Jesus' cup? Death. Death. Martyrdom. Suffering. The crucifixion. And he knew that his followers, his disciples, will go through persecution, and that those specific two were going to have to drink that cup too. And then he said, but really, if you can sit at my right or my left hand side, that's not for me to give, but for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. So again, he's saying, not my will, but my Father's will be done. And I think we need to remember that when we petition things for our children. We might want a lot of things, but we really don't know what that means. And we need to be careful that in our not knowing, we might not ask for the wrong thing. So, do you really know what you are asking for your son, for your grandchild, for your nephew, for your, whichever child is important to you in your life? Well, you might be asking that he or she be a great engineer, and you might not know that that means going to war with big machinery and building bridges under difficult circumstances. And are you really willing? Do you really want them to do that? And are you willing to let them go? You might be asking for your child to be a medical doctor, and you don't know that he will go through Haiti in very bad conditions and try to save children there. And you might not see him for 5 years. Or you might want a daughter to be a nurse, and you don't know that she's going to be dealing with infectious diseases of which she could be contaminated. Are you willing for that to happen? Or you might want an artist in your family, but you don't know how how his art or her art will take off. Maybe he just wants to paint on the streets. Or you want a musician, and your musician just wants to travel through Europe playing the guitar on the streets and open up the case to have money in, or, you don't know where your dreams might take your kids. But God knows. And if you put your dreams in God's hands, then His will can be done in your children. Sometimes we despair. Are my dreams ever to happen? Are they going to come to fruition? Well, in Ministry of Healing, page 231, it says, we all want immediate and direct answers to our prayers and are tempted to become discouraged when the answer is delayed or comes in an unlooked for form. But God is too wise and good to answer our prayers always at just the time and in just the manner we desire. He will do more and better for us than accomplish all our wishes. So maybe that what we are asking is not good enough. Or maybe that our wish is not the right wish. But God is always willing to give us more and better on His own timing, not on ours, of that which are our dreams. So what was it really that was wrong with Mary's dream? Well, it was that it was a little bit misdirected because she wanted greatness. She was saying, I want them to be the greatest in your kingdom versus service. Jesus kept saying that the greatest in His kingdom will be who? Their servant, right? Just as Jesus served His disciples and washed their feet in the high room where they went just before the Passion Week. And He wanted to have His disciples and His followers remember that it's not greatness, it's service. So, are your dreams for your children directed towards greatness or towards service? The other problem was she wanted them to rule. She was thinking about ruling versus self-sacrifice. When Jesus asked, can you take my cup? He was saying, can you be self-sacrificing? It's not greatness what I offer anybody. It's self-sacrifice. Are you willing to do that? And the other problem was self-importance. She was maybe thinking about, how important they will look if they were just right there at the top position versus love. Well, evidently her sons did fulfill a greater and better dream. Because John was known as the disciple of love, and when we read his epistles, especially the last three, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of John, is full of talking about the love of God and how important love is. And both him and James were willing to give their lives for the love of God and the love of Jesus. So they did learn that lesson, and they did drink the cup that Jesus said that, that they so quickly said, yes, we are willing, although at that time they didn't know what it meant. They did learn about it through their lives. I am assuming that by that time, their mother was probably not alive anymore. But, the Desire of Ages, again in page 549, talks to us of what it really means to be close to Jesus. She says, the one who stands nearest to Christ will be he who on earth has drunk most deeply of the spirit of His self-sacrificing love. Love that moves the disciples as it moved our Lord to give all, to live and labor and sacrifice, even unto death, for the saving of humanity. A love of God so strong that it spills out as love for everybody around us. So perhaps it's best that mothers do not live long enough usually, although some have the sad task of seeing their own children die before them. But usually they don't live long enough to know all the chapters in their children's lives, because sometimes to learn those lessons of self-sacrifice and of love, full love for God, sometimes some of those chapters our children might have to go through might not be the prettiest ones or the ones that we will choose for them. But we need to rely on God's promises and on God's love, and remember that His love for our children is greater than our own. So although your dreams might not come true in the way that you were envisioning it, if that happens, it might be either because your child has made life choices that are mutually exclusive to such a dream as yours. You know, sometimes you want I was just talking yesterday to someone that the dream of his father and grandfather and every male in his family was for him to be an engineer. So he ended up having 2 engineer degrees, and he hated engineering. And he is a salesman nowadays, not an engineer. Because the dream that his family had for him was not a dream that was aligned with the gifts that God had given him. And sometimes we do that. When I was in Montemorelos, and I was counseling there, every year I had, I don't know how many freshman kids in college that will come to me in tears because their parents were saying, we are not going to pay for your tuition until you study X or Y. And they didn't like that. And they were having horrible grades and a horrible time because the dream of their parents was not aligned with the gifts that God had given them as individuals. Or another reason why your dreams might not come true is because maybe your child was never meant to be or do what your dream is, because God gives those gifts that He sees fit in the way He sees it. So, as mothers, and as fathers too, you know, even though it's Mother's Day, we can talk about fathers a little bit too. As mothers and fathers, we must surrender all the dreams we have for our children, except for one. There's one we don't need to surrender. 3 John 4, John, the disciple of love, says, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in the truth. That's a dream that we can always pray for. We know it's God's will, and we don't have to shy away from. So, I hope that that will be our biggest dream for every child, not only our own, but those around us in church also. There is a song that I really love, and it has to do with asking God to lead our children to Him. And I wanted the congregation to sing it, and the pastor said, the congregation doesn't know the song. Well, I'm sure that some people in the congregation might know it, but in case they don't, what we are going to do is, I'm going to play it, and my friend Herta, which has a much better voice than I do, is going to sing it first for you, the first 2 stanzas. And then after that, we are going to repeat, all of us singing together, the first 2 stanzas. So as soon as you start feeling that you might have heard the song or that you might want to start singing with her, you can start doing it. And after she sings the first 2 stanzas, we all are going to sing the first 2 stanzas again.
I think I'm going to sing the first one twice because it's
okay.
In that way everybody gets the words and it's easier.
And since I will be playing,
and then we do
after the third time, after
Uh-huh.
she sings it twice and after the congregation sings it once, then you can help me advance the clicker for the last stanza. And I'm going to put this thing off so that I don't get.
Lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them to thee. These children dear of mine, thou gavest me. Oh, by the love divine, lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them to thee. The first one again. Lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them to thee. These children dear of mine, thou gavest me. Oh, by the love divine, lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them to thee. The second one. When earth looks bright and fair, festive and gay, let no delusive snare lure them astray. But from temptation's power, lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them, my God, to thee. Lead them to thee.
I appreciate that a lot. And with that, we are going to get up for the benediction.